Ladies and gentlemen, let me open a special meeting, City Council, City of Pearland, for Monday, February the 11th, 2019. Councilmember Hernandez, would you present the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move we approve the 10 items on the new business agenda.
We have a motion.
Okay. Just to clarify, I believe what we've done historically speaking with these resolutions for the acquisition of right-of-way for the McCard Road project, just as a refresher for the public, these are eminent domain cases that we've been negotiating with property owners for the acquisition of right-of-way to complete that project. And once we get to a certain point where negotiations fail, then we have to proceed to eminent domain. And these are resolutions that must be approved by council before we can do so. State law requires me to read each and every caption out loud, and so that will take a little bit of time since there are 10 lengthy agenda captions that I will be reading. And historically, the council has made a motion to approve items 1 through 10, and I will identify each resolution by number. Councilmember Hernandez, if you could just clarify that would be all items 1 through 10, and then if we could get a second, then I will begin reading the captions.
Absolutely. So I move we approve items 1 through 10 on the new business agenda.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. And if everybody wants to get comfortable and find something else to do right now, I will go ahead and start reading. A resolution of the city, this is resolution 2019-41, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, McCalla Road to Cullen Parkway. Part 1 being a 6.460 acre, 281,384 square foot parcel of land located in the HTMB RR Company Survey, Abstract 237, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of lots 3 and 6.5, Section 5, HTMB RR Railroad Company Survey, according to the plat thereof, recorded in volume 28, page 6, Brazoria County deed records, and being out of those certain called 12.0586 acre tract and 44.0130 acre tract as described in a quitclaim deed executed on February 4th, 2006 from Linda Alexander Rodriguez to Sun Lake Limited, recorded under Brazoria County Clerk's file, and part 2 being a 13.702 acre parcel of land located in the HTMB Company Survey, Abstract 237, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of lots 3 and 6.5, Section 5, HTMB Railroad Company Survey, company subdivision according to the plat thereof as recorded in volume 28, page 6, Brazoria County deed records, and being out of those certain called 12.0586 acre tract and 44.0130 acre tract as described in a quitclaim deed executed on February 4th, 2006 from Linda Alexander Rodriguez to Sun Lake Limited, recorded under Brazoria Clerk's file number 2006-019064 of the official records of Brazoria County. Number 2, which is resolution 2019-49, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for McCard Road Extension Project, McCalla Road to Cullen Parkway, being of a 0.0140 acre tract, 612 square feet, parcel of land located in the HTMB RR Company Survey, Abstract 219, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of Lot 1, Block 1, Pine Oak subdivision according to the plat thereof is recorded in Volume 19, page 751, Brazoria County Plat Records, and being out of that certain calculated 0.6492 acre tract as described in a deed executed on November 12, 1998 from Truth Dang Bui to Dien Quang Bui, recorded under Brazoria County Clerk's file number 98-049696 of the official public records of Brazoria County. Number 3, consideration possible action resolution 2019-47, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, McCalla Road to Cullen Parkway, being a 0.2404 acre, 10,472 square foot parcel of land located in the FB Drake Survey, Abstract 505, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, and being out of Lot 6, Section 10, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision according to the plat thereof filed in Volume 2, pages 23 through 24, Brazoria County Plat Records, and being out of that certain called 1.164 acre tract described in a deed executed on July 23, 2013 from Jason C. Blight, successor trustee, to Salvador Davila Jr., recorded under Brazoria County Clerk's file number 2013-036461 of the official public records of Brazoria County. Number 4 is Resolution 2019-38, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being a 0.1726 acre, 7,500 square foot parcel of land located in the FB Drake Survey, Abstract 504, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of that certain Lot 28, Section 8, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof filed in Volume 2, pages 23 through 34, Brazoria County Plat Records, and being out of that certain called north half of Lot 28, calculated 5.011 acres tract, as described in a deed executed on May 7, 1985, from Cynthia L. Pate, independent executrix, to Cynthia L. Pate, recorded in Volume 85, 131, page 658 of the official public records of Brazoria County. Number 5 will be Resolution 2019-39, a resolution of the City Council, City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being a 1.001 acre, 43,602 square foot parcel of land located in the HTMB RR Company Survey, Abstract 234, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of certain Lot 47, Section 9, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof filed in Volume 2, pages 23 through 34, Brazoria County Plat Records, and being out of that certain called 1 acre, calculated 1.001 acre tract, as described in a deed executed on June 5, 1978, from Stephanie Uresti to Jesus Rodolfo Uresti, as recorded in Volume 1403, page 449, Brazoria County Deed Records. Number 6 is Resolution number 2019-48, a resolution of the City Council, of the City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being a 0.1906 acre tract, 8,303 square foot parcel of land located in the FB Drake Survey, Abstract 503, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, and being out of Lot 6, Section 10, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof filed in Volume 2, page 23 through 24, Brazoria County Plat Records, and being out of that certain 0.992 acre, calculated as 0.9915 acre tract, as described in a deed executed on March 15th, from Elmer J. Bull Etux to Antonio Rojas Etux, recorded under Volume 767, page 9 and 10 of the official public records of Brazoria County. Number 7, Resolution 2019-40, a resolution of the City Council, City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being of 0.3285 acre tract, 14,300 square foot parcel of land in the HTMB RR Company Survey, Abstract 243, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, and being out of Lot 49, Section 19, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof filed in Volume 2, page 23 through 34, Brazoria County Plat Records, and out of that certain called 2.01 acre tract, as described in a deed executed on March 7, 2005, from Beatrice LaSalle, individually as independent executrix of the estate of Merle S. Wilhile, deceased Edward John Shira, et al., recorded in Brazoria County Clerk's file number 2005-01-2973 of the official public records of Brazoria County. Number 8, Resolution 2019-46, a resolution of the City Council, City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being a 0.1053 acre, 4,583 square foot parcel of land located in the RB Lyle Survey, Abstract 544, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of Lot 17, Section 6, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Volume 136, page 500, Brazoria County Deed Records, and being out of the residue of that certain called 10-acre tract as described in a deed executed on October the 8th, 1945, from P.C. Bundy to D.A. Fernandez, recorded in Volume 400, page 255, Brazoria County Deed Records for the construction. We don't need to say that part. Now we'll move on to number 9, Resolution 2019-45. Resolution of the City Council, City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension Project, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being a .7212 acre, 31,418 square foot parcel of land located in the RB Lyle Survey, Abstract 544, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of Lot 17, Section 6, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof, is recorded in Volume 136, page 500, Brazoria County Deed Records, and being out of that certain called 2-acre tract as described in a deed executed on February 28, 2005, from John Sayers Hallmark Sr., by and through agent and attorney-in-fact Jack Lyndon Hallmark, to Frank Perez, recorded under Brazoria County Clerk's file number 2005-014533 of the official public records of Brazoria County. And number 10, consideration possible action, Resolution 2019-44, resolution of the City Council, City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to certain property for the McCard Road Extension, Caro Road to Cullen Parkway, being a .0344 acre, 1.500 square foot parcel of land located in the RB Lyle Survey, Abstract 544, Pearland, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of Lot 17, Section 6, Allison Ritchie Gulf Coast Home Company subdivision, according to the plat thereof, is recorded in Volume 136. Page 500, Brazoria County Deed Records, and being out of that certain called .344 acre tract as described in a deed executed on November 4th, 1967, from A. Fernandez to Frank Perez, that was from D.A. Fernandez to Frank Perez at Tux, recorded under Volume 985, page 229, Brazoria County Deed Records. And all this is for the construction and maintenance of road, utility, and drainage improvements on certain real property described herein, authorizing the city attorney or his designee and other city officials to take such actions as are necessary to acquire said property located within the city by donation, purchase, or by the exercise of power of eminent domain. Thank you.
Does the council have any question or comment regarding the items that were read in front? Mr. Secretary, I believe we have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Little.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Owens.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay. Since that is the last item on that, the agenda for that item, I will adjourn that section at 6:32. We'll start a council meeting in just a few moments here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me open a regular meeting of City Council, City of Pearland for Monday, February the 11th, year 2019. Before I start, I want to say that we have a number of people wanting to talk about one issue. And at some point, we're going to ask if you would like to have one person represent your comments, because I think that it means an awful lot, but I'll check that over to our Mayor Pro Tem when it comes to that point in our agenda. If you'll please rise, we'll end with invocation tonight by Gary Moore, and Councilmember Hernandez will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would, please bow your head with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight. We ask that you watch over each and every one of us as we're here. We ask that you guide us in making decisions that are comforting and to your will. And we ask that you watch over the men and women defending this country here and abroad, and to watch out for all the first responders that protect us each and every day. We ask that you allow us to know the things that we can control and the things that we can't. And we ask that you guide us in each and every one of those each and every day. We ask all of these things in your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. Recite our pledges to the U.S. and Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for being here. It's been an interesting day. Had a little rain, had a little sunshine, had a lot of wind, and a little bit of cold. So it's looked like Mother Nature's not quite sure what they want to share with us in the future. Let's go through our agenda, which is what I will be using through the meeting today. Item number 3 on our agenda is roll call, and all of our council members are here, bright and shiny faces. Item 4 is citizen comments. Councilmember Perez, would you lead that in?
Thank you, Mayor. So I've got one person that wants to speak on an issue of general concern, not on a particular item, and I've got I've got a group of people that want to speak about a particular item in agenda item number 1. So what we're hoping to do, since there's looks like there's 12 of you that want to speak on one item at 3 minutes apiece, that's going to be quite a long time, and I'm sure that for the most part, some of y'all are going to be saying very similar things. So what I'd like to do is, if I'll call you out by name, and if y'all would like to maybe go outside for a little bit, see if you can find one representative for those of you who want to speak for the item, and maybe one representative for those of you that may want to speak against the item. If that's amenable to y'all, it may be able to get y'all's input. Y'all can agree on what y'all want to say and what information's passed over to you. We'll give a little leeway on the time for that individual speaker, but we won't extend the meeting by hearing some of y'all make similar comments over a 30 or 40-minute session. That's okay with everybody.
I mentioned the agenda.
Yes, sir, and that's agenda item number 1. So to give y'all time, I'd like if y'all fill out a comment or a paper to speak on the animal shelter, to speak positively for it. Would y'all please stand up? Okay. Again, if y'all would like to just go outside, see if there's 1 or 2 of you that would like to speak on behalf of the group, I think that would be best. Is there anybody who would like to speak against the animal shelter or against bond item or agenda item number 1?
One guy.
Okay, you get to speak by yourself. We'll have some time before we get to agenda item number 1, and we won't. If y'all want to do that now, we all have time to kind of meet, consolidate your thoughts, and find a representative or 2. While we're doing that, Mr. Dowell Jeffries. Mr. Jeffries, if you'll please come to the podium. You're a rather tall guy, so make sure the mic's close to you so we can hear you. Please state your name and address for the purpose of the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
I'm Dowell Jeffries, 2605 John Street, in the Briar Glen subdivision. Thank you for putting in the hours. If you can see the picture, has it been, one of the pictures made it around yet? What I'm talking about is, I work at Hobby Airport, and every day I drive this road going southbound on Old Alvin, making a left onto McCard, right by the new fire station. Well, there is a conflict. There's something there competing for your attention if you're trying to make that left turn. And I guarantee you, anybody trying to make a left turn at that intersection is not going to be looking at the school zone sign. The fine print on that school zone sign is hard enough to read without trying to negotiate a pothole. So my request is, can we get some attention to that pothole and make it so that we can pay more attention to more important things? Those are both the same. So the idea is that more people could see them. That's all I want to say, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, that's all the individuals that wanted to speak as part of the general comments section. Charlie's speaking on item 1. He wants to speak on item 1. Yeah, he's going to speak on item 1. Yes.
He said, "Where you go straight?"
No, he wants to speak on item 1, Mayor, so we have everybody who wants to speak in the
Oh.
public comment.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else will speak on item 1, so we're ready to move forward to consent agenda, Mayor. Mayor, we're ready to move forward.
Okay, you through? You want-
Yes, sir.
We'll
Yes, sir.
come back to that, okay. Moving our agenda to item 5, which is public hearings. There are none, and have not planned one. A consent agenda. Councilmember Carbone, would you present the consent agenda for our consideration?
Mayor, there's one item I think was requested to be pulled. And item C, yes, sir.
Item C, okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action approval of consent agenda items A through J with the exception of C. So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. Secretary?
Councilmember Carbone,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Perez,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Aye.
Councilmember Little,
Aye.
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Owens.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay. Moving, would you make a motion on it?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action resolution R 2019-36. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, and do I hear a second on that? Have a second? We're in discussion, staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Good evening. Item C is a resolution that provides our property tax abatement policy. City is required to review and adopt a new one every 2 years. So this is, for the largest part, what we've been operating under. Provides guidelines for when there is an economic development project that we can assess and provide some guidelines for how we review those. There is some language changes that we'd like to introduce and ask you to incorporate into the resolution tonight. And Mr. Coker is going to just outline those for you real quick, so we're all on the same page.
And just to clarify, let me get this situated here. Find it here. Section 1N, there is the word "and," which should have been stricken from the red line copy that was provided in the agenda. So it clearly would like an amendment that to reflect that that word "and" from section 1M would be stricken. And then on the next page, excuse me, 2 pages down, section 2, section D, the very last sentence, there's a section that says a variance is granted in accordance with these guidelines. That was intended to be stricken, and it was not. And so we'd also like to reflect in that amendment in that section to strike that language as well. And just so you'll know, the reason we're recommending striking that language, it doesn't read properly right now, but the reason it doesn't is because it should have been stricken because there's already another provision in the guidelines that deals with the variance procedure. And so it was really superfluous language, and so it should be stricken for that reason. And I do know that there was at least one council member mentioned some other suggested revisions they may have, so I'll pass it back to the council now.
Okay, we have a requested amendment of the motion.
Before we do that, Mayor, I just had I think there's some additional language that needs some clarification. So in the definitions, item J is improvements, means fixed improvements, and we've stricken some superfluous language. And then we have to define fixed improvements. And in the definition of fixed improvements is the word improvement. So it's kind of a circular reference that, to me, if I'm reading that, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If improvements means fixed improvements, then improvements should just be the definition of fixed improvements. We shouldn't have the term fixed improvement. But I think we need to expand or expound upon what is inclusive of fixed improvements other than just say improvements are improvements. It just seems, if I'm reading that and I'm trying to figure out, if I qualify for one of these abatements, that definition is not helpful to me.
Good point, and I do agree that what are currently J and K in the definitions, the best way to approach that, I think, would be to incorporate the fixed improvements into the definition improvements, and that would reduce that down to just the one definition. I think with respect to the clarification, fixed improvements are real property and leasehold improvements. Those are going to be, again, fixed to the property. So the definition of improvements is limited by its definition of having fixed improvements, and then there's further clarification within the documents on what is eligible and ineligible property, and those are defined as well. And the eligible properties would be further clarified as those fixed improvements, as opposed to the ineligible properties, which are typically items that can be moved.
Okay, so what would we suggest in Reader's Digest version, how would we modify that?
Okay, I think we would be defining improvements as fixed improvements, which are real property and leasehold improvements. And then would do away with the, in other words, incorporate fixed improvement definition into what is currently item J. But by removing K, we'll of course we'll re-letter the remainder of it from that point forward.
Yes, sir. And on the other two items that we were discussing for modification, I guess I could just have some better clarification of why we're trying to make this change. So what is the rationale of going from a supermajority to a majority? I guess a further explanation as from what was in the agenda packet. And with respect to extending the city manager's administrative extension from 6 months to a year. I guess generally I'm fine with 6 months. I mean, if you've got more than 6 months delay on a construction project, it means it's probably not going to happen. So I don't know if there's a practical need for that, but maybe I could be educated.
Since that was the text of it, I'll ask Matt to explain that for your consideration. So.
On the council, on the issue of the supermajority versus the simple majority, we just thought we'd give you as an option. Obviously, we've expanded council from 5 positions to 7 positions since we did this, so it would take 6 of 7 council members now to make a variance. Don't have very many variances, only done 1 in the 10 years I've been here, but just thought we'd give you that option. And then on the second change, the last change, it's just 6 months is not a long period of time. Typically, when we do these agreements, it seems like the people have good intentions of how fast they're going to get under construction. And obviously, it's to the city's benefit to keep them tighter on the timeline. So we just thought a year versus 6 months, but it's not a huge issue either.
I guess I would ask if any of the other council members are okay with those changes.
What's, I guess, what's the reason on bringing it to a supermajority?
Well, it was presently a supermajority. They're changing
Right.
it to a simple majority.
Majority, okay, that's good.
Okay. If we're okay with the other two provisions, I guess then we just need an amendment to include the changes to the Scrivener's errors and the modification to the definition. Correct?
Yes, and just for clarification, and then if a council member would want to so move after that, I believe the clarification would be that section 1N would be amended to remove the word and then the section 2D, the definition of eligible property would be modified to also strike the phrase, "A variance is granted in accordance with these guidelines." That would be stricken. And then the definition of improvements and fixed improvements on items J and K would be combined into one definition to further clarify that improvements are fixed improvements and then what fixed improvements are.
So moved.
Second.
On that,
Yes, so we have a motion and a second to amend the motion.
okay?
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed? Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Amendment passed 7-0.
Council get on top of all that one. I thought that was some good moves on that, and thank you, Darren, for,
Mayor, we have that passed the amended motion. We still have to pass the motion.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that was the approval of the amendment to the
Yes,
motion, so
okay,
we
we've
still
got
have to pass
amended
the
motion on the floor. Council have any questions or comment on that?
No, Mayor.
I believe we have amended motion that everybody likes.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed? Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed as amended 7-0.
That information pretty well tapped up. That was, that's sort of a rather lengthy type of piece of ordinance work there, and then to be able to resolve that, I think is a pretty good task by the city council. Let's move in our agenda to move into item number 6 on our agenda, matters removed from the consent agenda. We're already taking care of most of that. We're into new business, and it looks like our delegate has been returned for your consideration, Mr. Thank all of you for working out a solution amongst yourselves, and we'll turn this back over to Councilmember Perez.
Okay, do we have everybody? It looks like there's a couple of more individuals in the back or still outside. Do we know if they're part of the group? Okay. All right, now that everybody's back, first, is it okay with everybody just to make sure everything's in order and make sure we're not missing anybody? I'm going to call everybody's name that I believe was going to speak in favor of the animal shelter. Just confirm that's what you're doing and make sure that you're comfortable with whomever is going to represent you. So, do we have the individual that wants to represent the group? Is it 3 people?
Come on up.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I will just call y'all out individually, and you can just let us know if you do or do not wish to speak. By requirement, y'all all have the right to speak. So I don't want to advertise if you do not have the right. We were just trying to consolidate the meeting. I'm sure y'all all have some of the same thoughts and would say some of the same things. So if we could consolidate it, that gets everybody home on time. but it is y'all's right to speak up for up to 3 minutes. So first, if I'll invite Mr. Charles McMurray. Mr. McMurray, as is normal, if you'll please state your name and address for the purpose of the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And I'll let you know when
Charlie
you have-
McMurray, 5209 Spring Branch Drive here in Pearland. And I have a different opinion than many of the people seated here. But first, on the bond election, Pearland's proposing a $79,989,000 bond election. And I'm strongly in favor of the majority of the items, strongly in favor of infrastructure. We're a growing city. You have to build and provide services. So I'm very, in principle, favor bond proposals A, B, C, and F. I have strong reservations regarding D, the animal shelter, $12,875,000 as proposed, which is about $600,000 less than I read initially in the newspaper and spoke with some of y'all, I believe, individually by phone about that. I've been an animal owner, everything from registered Bramers to foxhounds that we'd hunt with up in San Jacinto County, and having a black lab. Is that the animals that I had have always been able to persevere when in an environment. And when we had those show fox dogs, we didn't air condition the facility that we had for them. We had a very nice facility built for them, cinder block with a roof and dog runs for them, but we didn't give them air conditioning. Is that from what I understand, and I'm not saying I understand it in total, but as I understand it, the 21,000 square foot animal shelter that we're building using bonds that are going to go for 40 years, and I doubt that the facility will last for 40 years, is going to be air conditioned for all of the animal cages. And I find that extraordinary in this regard. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice Correctional Institutional Division incarcerates 145,000 human beings. And very few of those 145,000 human beings incarcerated in this state in the summertime have any air conditioning, and it's become a constitutional issue for the elderly sick ones. But I find it extraordinary and unacceptable to turn around and air condition every single cage for an animal when we have human beings incarcerated without air conditioning. We have elderly actions, charitable nonprofit for all of Brazoria County. Every summer, we have a fan program. Actions has a fan program to distribute fans for those elderly or indigent people who don't have the money for air conditioning. And for Pearland to turn around and spend close to $13 million to build a structure, and then when you build it, you have to maintain it, the air conditioning and everything else. I'm not saying I want them staked down in the bright sun. I'm saying that that's overbuilt, is that special interest groups, everything from PETA to SPCA, this is overkill, and we need to turn around and perhaps take that off the proposed bond election, rethink what we're going to do. Yes, you need another facility. Rethink what you're going to do. In the south part of the county where the demographics are not as large as what we have,
Charlie, if
the
you could please wrap up your
SPCA
comments.
runs a consolidated shelter for 3 cities down here. Manville desperately has years needed a more appropriate animal shelter because theirs was deplorable. Consider removing this, rethinking it, consider contracting out the operations of it. Look at what private industry does in joint venture and partner with at least one other city if you're going to operate it yourself, or find a nonprofit like SPCA to operate it like they do in the South.
Charlie, I
If I
need
went
you to
over
wrap
my
up your
limit, I'm
comments.
sorry.
Yes, sir.
Well, maybe I'm not sorry.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm going to call you out individually. Again, just let us know if somebody's already spoken and represents you, if you choose not to speak. Again, you have up to 3 minutes. Please try and keep to the 3-minute limit if you are speaking. And if you wish not to speak, no concern here. So first, Ms. Laura Sanchez. Okay. Miss Rebecca Reyna. Ms. Reyna, please state your name and address for the purpose of the record. Please talk close to the microphone so it can pick you up. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. My name is Rebecca Reyna and reside at 4714 Comal Street, Pearland, Texas, 77581. I'm actually a former student of Lisa Jackson who spent about a decade teaching at Salvatore Middle School. I grew up in Pearland, and through her, I met Sherry Coleman, the director of the animal shelter. It was through Sherry Coleman and the animal shelter that I learned very important and valuable lessons in life. I was raised by a single mother, an absentee single mother at that. And it was that foundation and that organization that taught me most of what I missed at home. When I think about foundations like this, I think about my daughter. I have a 7-year-old daughter. This is the place where I learned valuable lessons such as responsibility, compassion, negligence, and it's facilities like this that I encourage our community to continue to promote growth in. Not just for the animals, but for our youth. The next generation is growing up in times where they are captured fully in social media, in Facebook and Instagram. And there's so many children that are left behind that don't have the opportunity to leave the negativity behind and volunteer. Where the shelter currently is, we can't even host volunteers. These children don't have an option. So while I'm an advocate for the animals, I'm also an advocate of the youth in our community, and they need a foundation like this. And I ask that while considering budgets and bondings, that you take our youth into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Miss Melissa Jackson. Ms. Jackson, please state your name and address for the purpose of the record. Please talk close to the microphone so it'll pick you up. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. My name is Lisa Jackson, and currently I live at 1210 Sunset Drive in Friendswood. Although I'm not currently a Pearland resident, I did live and teach in Pearland from 1995 to 2009. The funding and location of the proposed new building for Animal Control and Adoption Center is definitely my deepest tie to this city still. When I first started teaching at SAB, the city of Pearland was still a very small town, and my principal allowed me to start an animal education club, where I plan to teach them character counts lesson plans while exposing them to concepts like adopting, spaying and neutering, and responsibility. I had the chance to chat with Sherry Coleman back in 2000 regarding the possibility of students coming to the shelter and volunteering, and although space was limited and there was no education room, nothing was on the premises other than really the kennel and a small office, she welcomed us and her staff with open arms. And with the help of her staff, she started to change the perceptions of the community and the students about what animal control does and what they provide in the community and what their role is. Over the years, hundreds of kids and their parents helped me, and they got involved with the shelter. They learned about empathy and abuse and responsibility, as well as the terrible hardships the staff has to endure when there aren't enough homes or people can't keep their pets and no space is left. I left Pearland in 2009 and moved. At the height of my volunteering, I had to get up my role as position number 4 on the Animal Advisory Board for the city when I did move. But I passed the baton of the group to other teachers, and I knew Sherry would continue to work with them. I moved back to the area not too long ago, and I was so happy to see the shelter on this future bond, but I was devastated to see that the budget was being cut left and right, even though both the human and pet population had exploded since I left. It's time to give the city a 21st century shelter that allows the community to fully embrace animal control staff and all they have to offer. Sadly, I know the education room's already cut, along with some other frivolities. But the plan is not including $80 dog beds or designs that mirror Taj Mahal, but money is required to create a true shelter that supports safety requirements, office space, but also has the ability to allow public interaction with animals in less stressful situations,
You have 30 seconds, ma'am.
so that the education of our youth and compassion and responsibility can continue. As a forward-thinking city in so many other projects, I hope you do not consider a metal building at the end of a dead-end road with no air conditioning, but instead consider a building to be proud of that allows Pearland to grow and be proud of that place. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, a Mr. Blake Somwell, or Somel? Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. My apologies. Ma'am, if you could please state your name and address for the purpose of the record. Please talk into the mic. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Yes, my name is Blake Selmo, and I reside at 3315 Ridge Point Court, Pearland, Texas. 3315 Ridge Point Court. Good evening, Council, and thank you again for allowing me to speak on a subject that's really near and dear to my heart. I'm here again to ask you to vote yes in favor of a new animal shelter. The word no kill has been thrown around, so I just wanted to give some background information. Best Friends Society is a 501c3 nonprofit organization which operates the nation's largest sanctuary for homeless animals in Utah. Best Friends has a goal of making this great nation a no-kill nation by 2025. A no-kill community acts on the belief that every dog and cat deserves to live and focuses on saving lives through pet adoption, spay and neuter programs, trap, neuter, and return programs, and a lot of community support. And obviously, you can see from the speakers before me, community is a huge factor in this, and obviously a great involvement. While a percentage is not the goal, it's a quantitative benchmark that can help guide life-saving efforts. Saving 90% or more of the animals that enter the shelter is the current benchmark for no-kill. I do believe that Best Friends Society will make this nation a no-kill country by 2025, and I really hope that Pearland is at the forefront of this movement. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Next, Ms. Whitney Caro. Thank you, ma'am. Next, Mrs. Lisa Lintadum. Apologize. Linton. Thank you, ma'am. If you can please state your name and address for the purpose of record. Speak close into the mic so it can pick you up. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
My name is Dr. Lisa Linton. I'm at 10100 Broadway Street in Pearland, Texas. I co-own the Pearland Animal Emergency Clinic, and I really support a new shelter for us. It is a great concern that we help prevent unnecessary euthanasia due to lack of an adequate isolation unit. And we can also help prevent the spread of zoonotic diseases amongst the Pearland animal community with an adequate isolation unit. Please help us support a positive step so we can advance the health of Pearland animal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clinton. Next, Ms. Haley Greenway. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Next, Ms. Gloria Johnson. Thank you, ma'am. Next, Kurt Johnson. Thank you, sir. Next, Ms. Stephanie Johnson. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Johnson, if you can please state your name and address for the purpose of record, please speak directly into the mic. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds
Yes, sir.
left.
Thank you. My name is Stephanie Johnson. I live at 2912 Ashbrook Lane in Pearland. And I want to thank the others who have given up their time, and I hope I can do you justice. I volunteered for the Animal Services Department at the Petco adoption events for 6 years now. During that time, I have learned a lot about the Department of Animal Services and what its needs are. Over the years, I've also heard a lot of feedback from the public about the shelter during adoption events. Overall, most people are in support of animal adoption and recognize and appreciate the need for animal services and the hard work and very often tough jobs that the officers of the department have. I was surprised at how many people have told me that they tried to visit the shelter but couldn't find anywhere to park, or that it was too crowded and noisy to feel like they could spend enough time there looking for potential pets. I've also heard from other people who have tried to volunteer at the shelter, and there's basically just not enough space, capacity to allow more children, more people in our community to volunteer and make a difference in our society. Generally, it was too crowded, too noisy to feel like people who were interested in adopting to feel like they could spend enough time looking for a potential pet. Because of this, I've been told that many people would go to neighboring towns or cities to adopt, which I feel defeats the purpose of having our own adoption program. We all can agree that our city is growing rapidly, and with this growth in population will come the increased number of people with pets who may find themselves in need of the shelter's resources. This includes not only services for pet owners, but the role of the department serves for general public safety and health. Stray animals are a risk to the human population as well, and I feel like with a larger building, something more modern that can accommodate this population growth, the city can not only accommodate more employees, but also improve the ability and welcome more people of the public to come and adopt animals from our shelter. And I'm going to speak for some other people. I believe that we all believe tonight is the night that you guys can stand up for the City of Pearland, for your own employees who work tirelessly in an emotionally draining service to this society, to this community, and stand up for the quality of life for these people and the pets under the care of your city. And you can stand up for an amazing and dedicated employees at the shelter and support this new shelter as it is proposed. We are growing and we need to keep up with this growth. We can't ignore this problem. More people are coming, more animals are coming, and it is time that we just go ahead and pull the trigger and do something to support not only our community, but the future community as well. I hope you all agree that a new shelter will only serve everybody and improve the quality of life for the people and the animals of Pearland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, Miss Mary Hickley. Thank you, ma'am. And lastly, Mr. Neil Wallach. Thank you, sir. That is everyone. I want to thank all of y'all for helping out, and thank all of y'all for offering your comment. It is extremely important to hear from y'all. That's it, Mayor.
I thought the result of that was quite interesting and quite effective, and thank you all for participating in that. It's kind of like having a group on the big stage with several hundred people trying to make inputs into a process. Yes, we're well organized and well presented, and I think it was quite effective, and thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. In our agenda, we just finished all of our items that we had under the consent agenda portion, and moving down to item number 7, new business, and starting out with Councilmember Reed. Would you present present the item number 1 on the new business?
Yeah, new business item.
Well, I thought we already presented it. Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action of resolution number R 2019-51. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This item, just to set it up a little bit and so we're all clear, this is required actions by the City Council to put onto the May ballot, May 4th, consideration by Pearland voters, not only the City Council positions, but also 5 different questions for a bond issue. And so the council is not, with consideration and approval, if that's done tonight, is not quote-unquote approving the bonds or anything else like that. It's simply putting to the voters these questions. So I think that's important to clarify from some of the comments especially. This financing from the bond perspective of it is part of our capital improvement program. The council reviewed and adopted a capital improvement program as part of the budget last fall. That folded into item in December, where at one time we were looking at a larger bond issue, as a matter of fact, and we've trimmed that down per the council direction. And so in December, we got a list of projects. We reviewed that again with the council in January, last meeting in January, just to make sure we're clear. And then that sets up tonight, which is the actual technical putting the resolution on. And it needs to be passed tonight if you want to have it on the May issue, just with timing, state requirements, and so forth. So, big picture, that's why we're here and why we're talking about it. Mr. Epperson does have a PowerPoint just to recap the items and dive in a little bit to at least one of the items, so we're clear about what's included here. And again, this is the bond financing. To get to the estimates, we commissioned some preliminary engineering for the projects, but there hasn't been any design work on these projects. That comes after this. If the items are approved by the voters in May, we would go through a selection process, pick professional design engineers for the projects. The architects, council will see that. And then normal bidding, competitive bidding process, the council would see the actual construction bids. So there's a lot of other steps that have to happen. This is simply putting it before the voters for the bond financing. And again, this is just a piece of our overall capital improvements. Is not all. We have TERS funding for a big piece of our capital improvements. We also on the water and sewer fund. Those projects are funded separately, not from property taxes. And then we get a large amounts of monies from intergovernmental federal HGC tip monies for road projects. So it's important to keep that, I think, in mind from perspective. So Mr. Upton, I believe, is going to share the PowerPoint for you just right now.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As City Manager Pearson stated, this will be a recap of what we talked about previously, and so we'll head through that. As Mr. Pearson stated, we met back in December 17th of 2018, and also January 28th. We presented these various projects and funding levels to you. Based on your direction that was given January of 28, they broke down into 5 separate referendums for questions. This was under streets, drainage, parks, animal shelter, and also now number 5, item number E, the fire department burn building. This projected rate increase was a 3.75. There's a zero missing off of there, and I apologize for that. That is a 3.75 cent increase above the current CIP projected rate projection. This is also a bond initiative. Also complements several of our multiple funding sources. As you're aware, is that in our current CIP that was adopted in 2019 for this year, both by Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council that we're working under, is that we also included now items associated with the TERS number 2 project. And so it's a multitude of funding sources that we have, and this bond program for general obligation bonds is another component of that CIP program. So just to give you a recap for the TERS number 2 approved projects, Fire Station 8 for $13 million, West Side Library, Shadow Creek Park Phase 2, the intersection improvements, and trail extension and sidewalk connections, totaling about $59 million that would be funded through the TERS 2 project program. Here's a list again of these projects, totaling $79.989 million. And this is how they break down for the proposed ballot propositions. Prop A would be drainage, Proposition B would be streets, Prop C parks, Proposition D animal shelter, animal services shelter, and Proposition E would be the fire training burn building. So just give a little background as we've talked. This has been a discussion that we've had tonight on the animal shelter. Here's some information. Back in 2012, Council directed staff to develop a plan to take a look at reducing our euthanasian rate. And this proposed project took that into consideration while evaluating the city's growth, our current intake volume, and our future needs through 2032. This information was taken and then completed a programming and layout projection. Evaluating site locations is forthcoming. That was a discussion that we are continuing having right now, is looking at several other city-owned properties that we have to evaluate the right site. And then taking all this information together, it's aligning to the provided direction, and this new facility is targeting about a 90% live release rate through 2032. This information is broken down into these areas that are fixed. We'll have a map of the site coming forth in just a moment of the facility, but fixed space here totaling about 11,677 square feet. These are fixed spaces for the public, administration, vet clinic area, storage, animal isolation and quarantine, and then the circulation or corridor aspects to be able to maneuver through the building. And we have some variable space. These could shrink or grow, but as set aside by the study, taking a look at looking out to 2032, these are the square footages totaling about 10,500, almost 600 square feet for the dog stray exceptions, adoptions, stray intakes, both cats and dogs, exotics, and then also exotics being our snakes, chinchillas, etc., and then also circulation or corridor associated with that as well. Here's a map of the site as taken, as we've talked about. Color-coded in there is public interface, office administration in yellow, miscellaneous support areas, clinical surgery, and animals, both indoor and outdoor. The areas that we boxed in red are areas that were identified, as we talked about earlier, as variable space. Just to give some comparison, I know there was a tour that went out today over to the city of Friendswood, and they have a population of about 40,000 people. The current shelter is set at about 5,500 square feet. Our population today for us at City of Pearland is about 124,000. This is based off of working with community development as we stand today. The square footage that we're proposing is 22,000 square feet. This is all the surface area inside the facility and under roof, including the areas that are under roof of the outdoor kennels. This gives us about a 3.5 delta on the population and then about a 4.03 times difference on the square footage. As you can tell, breaking this down into kennels, Friendswood has 27 kennels for dogs. We're projecting 90 for ours, delta of about 3.3. And same on the cat kennels. We're looking about a 2.6 delta between 72 cages, animals for the cats, and then 35 that Friendswood has. In projection, taking a look for our costs as we have broken down, this is broken down taking a look at our design costs. Our construction manager at risk fee, we are taking a look at this as a potential opportunity as costs are continuing to escalate in the construction field right now. Taking a look at this to bring that in, so make sure we maximize the funds available and minimize those cost changes by bringing in a tradesman known in the field. See construction management, construction inspection, construction testing costs. Construction is planned in the 2021-2022 fiscal year. These are 2018, 2019 dollars that are set here. Our furniture, fixtures, equipment, and then finally the inflation contingency and site conditions. This was taking in as the fact that the project has moved out a couple years based on the design and where we are and the dollars that are set above. So that covers the inflation portion, contingency, and then any site conditions that are necessary depending on the site that is selected. So that totals the total price of $13.037 million, as you see in the CIP budget book. We've already funded $162,000, so that's why the bond request is $12,875,000. The $162,000 was the proposed portion for taking a look at the PER funding that we talked about last year and getting the bonds, getting the CIP book approved and going out. We used substantially less than that, so that money is set there to offset any additional costs. As we've talked about previously, this is the debt rate impact for $79.989 million. It is a 3.75 cent increase between the current CIP and what the estimated debt service would be with the bond package. Again, schedule being is that May bond election. This is what you are voting on tonight, is to get this on the May bond election or the May election timeframe. If that is approved and move forward, then we'd be working on design of all these projects. 50 to 75% of these projects in June. looking at reimbursement in June as well, and then heading towards design and construction, looking to complete the package after 5 years. So tonight for the decisions, we're requesting that you approve your referendum as proposed for the 5 propositions for the May 4th ballot.
If I could, Mayor, just add a couple of things. It was mentioned about the term of the bonds. I believe the resolution, it's got boilerplate language. You're allowed to issue bonds up to 40 years, but the city council policy, which we would follow, which all the financials are predicated on, is 20 years. That's what we issue bonds for unless extraordinary situations, but that's what we would, that's what the financials are set for, and that's what we would intend to do is the 20s. And then also there's one comment made about, if we're going to build something that's modern for the city's needs in the future, we have to meet state requirements, and we would do that gladly. But one of those is that the temperatures have to be available between 50 and 82 degrees, and that's what we do. And so it's nothing extraordinary or out of line, but there'll be provisions to be able to provide that and meet those requirements. So, and then as we try to explain, if you're going to build a shelter, have a shelter operation, you have to meet requirements for care of the animals, and a lot of this is built upon that. The fixed space is whether you have 10 kennels or 100. It really doesn't matter. You need space for the public. You need stuff for the space for the vets. You need stuff for administration, for the adoption center, et cetera, et cetera. So the kennel count is the flexible space, and that's really been sized for what we can foresee for the useful life of the project. Is not extraordinary, but it does provide some room for growth, which I think we all want. If we're going to do this, we don't want to be undersized the first day, if at all possible. So that's what that's set up to do. So I just want to clarify those couple of points for you as well on this particular facility. That's all we have, sir.
Please, your report. Does council have any question or comment at this point? Councilman Reed.
Got it? Thank you, Mayor. So I guess just real quick, when this goes to the voters, is it going to have the amounts on there?
Right. The resolution that you have, it's got each of the separate questions on there, the 5, and the amount is in there for each one of those.
All right. Is it going to be broken down the way that Robert just showed us?
It'll be exactly in the resolution that you have.
Okay.
That text, sir.
So, and then I guess the next question is for Darren. Is there a way to amend this motion to where, if a council member wanted to just vote one way on making sure that, obviously, that the position 1 and whatever other positions are on there were vote, obviously we want those to go to vote. I'm not sure why we boxed all these in together, because, if I voted no, then that essentially says, I can only vote yes or no. And so, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Obviously the other stuff has to be voted on tonight as well. I understand we're just sending this to the voters, but I voiced my concern specifically about a couple of things on there. And so I just wanted to know, is that possible or no?
Traditionally, in the past, where we've had numerous measures that have been considered, not necessarily bond issues, but numerous items, it could be multiple zone changes, and taking them serially or in order, and took a vote, which would then be incorporated into the final resolution. I know we have bond counsel here tonight. Is that something that would be agreeable?
Can you use the microphone so we can hear on the broadcast?
Can you come to the mic,
You
please?
have to go to the...
For the purpose of the record, please introduce yourself. Let us know who you work for.
I'm Tanya Fisher. I'm bond counsel to the city. I'm with the law firm of Orrick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe. We were asked to set this up as one document. I think if you really did want to break it up, we could do.
Let me stop you real quick. I think I'm saying the question wrong. I want to separate the voting for the offices that obviously need to go on the ballot from all the rest of those propositions. I don't care about breaking up the individual propositions, but I'm saying, well, that would be good too, but but voting for, whether or not, Tony's position or Councilmember Carbone and whomever else is up, their position goes on the ballot. That's completely separate from a bond issue, right? I mean, that's something we're all going to say yes to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I want to say yes to everything else that's on there.
Okay, what we could do, it's a bit out of the ordinary, but if your city attorney agrees, I think what we could do is we could set up a motion that essentially divides this up into two separate resolutions and approve it that way. And then what we would come back to you, and you wouldn't have to go back, but the final signature would be two separate resolutions, and we would have two separate votes. Now, I don't know if that, from your standpoint, you think that works?
So it sounds like I can just make a motion then.
Well, it would be a little bit out of the ordinary.
Yes.
I think it's very clear from an open meetings perspective. It's very clear to the public what's on the agenda and what's being discussed this evening. And so to break it out and sort of bifurcate it that way, I think is possible. And just to let you know, the rationale and the reason it was done this way is in 2007, we had a special election and a general election called at the same time, and we did that in one resolution at that time. It's sort of a standard protocol. But if we want to, you're looking at me like I'm not telling the truth, but I promise you that's what we did.
I mean, you're telling the truth, but I mean, we know how 2007, how that turned out, right? And so, maybe some of those things probably should have been broken down, and the council in 2007 might have, looked at it differently and said, we probably can't afford to do all this stuff, and 10 years later, we're still working on it. So, so that's why, I obviously, I want the positions, and I'm pretty sure, I can't speak for everybody else, but that they want the positions voted on, and obviously that to go to the voters. But everything in this package, that may not be the case.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you want to separate the elected positions for the council members and that being added to the ballot, calling that for elections, from the propositions for the bond, so we can vote on those elected positions and the bond election separately.
Yeah.
I think it would just make a motion by you to amend the.
Well, that's what he was.
And I guess let me explain how that would work. You would essentially be asking that this document was broken up into two separate resolutions. And the first one would be a resolution ordering the general election, and then a separate resolution calling the bond election. So we would be creating two different resolutions. And I defer to your city attorney as far as how that works with open records. I mean, from sort of a legal standard going to the AG, we can divide it up and have it probably signed that way. It is rather unusual.
What I would recommend if we were to do that, if there was a motion to amend, it was seconded, and that's what you wanted to vote on to do so, I would recommend doing it as R 2019-51 and break them up into an A and a B. That way they're still linked to the same resolution number, which is currently on the agenda. We would just be simply sort of pulling what is currently a hybrid resolution and breaking them into two separate resolutions identified as A and B, if that's what the council would choose to do.
So I guess we'll find out. I'm going to make a motion to amend this motion to be broken down into two separate motions, one being R 2019-51A, which encompasses electing council members to position 1, position 5, and position 6 of the City of Pearland City Council, and then R 2019-51B, which calls for a bond election to be held within the City of Pearland, Texas, making provisions for the conduct and are giving of notice of the elections and containing other provisions related thereto.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry?
Wait a minute.
Amen. Oh, okay.
I just got one other
Accept
question. On the bond issues, is there a way that we can vote for each one of those separately? The 5 that's going to be listed on there or not?
Well,
I would actually recommend against that. It was sort of, staff direction was to prepare a resolution to come forward to council with all of those as proposed bond issues to submit to the voters to allow the vote on that.
The only thing I would say, I've heard a lot of negative on the animal shelter, So everybody that's here, I would suggest that y'all get out, work real hard to get the people to come in and vote, because they're voting on everything at one time. And whether it's animal shelter or repair of roads or what have you, or the burn facility, it's all going to be voted at one time. And there's a lot of people that is negative on the animal shelter because of the price. And if that's the case, this whole thing could go down.
Member Owens, I believe it's 5 propositions.
It's 5 different propositions.
We're allowing all propositions to go to the ballot, but they are voted on individually. So you can vote for the shelter and against the drainage project.
Okay, well, that's what I was wanting to be done. So all you folks here tonight know the work that you got ahead of you, or the shelter.
Let's proceed from the council.
I'll vote for it, but I want to make sure that y'all get out and work for it. It's the same thing we did when we had the natatorium, is getting a group together to get out and sell that natatorium. Okay?
Mayor, I think we have an amendment.
Yeah, we have an amendment, a motion right now to divide a election portion and then a financing and for the bond election, separate, A and B. So I think that's the motion we have on the floor, and we have one motion and a second, I believe.
Member Little,
We have a motion and a second?
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
No.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-1.
Okay.
Now, Mayor, we'll need to vote on 2019-51A on the
Amended
general
motion. Now,
election.
let's go back to amended motion now.
So we're just speaking of A, which would be for the council positions, the general election, correct?
Yep.
That is correct, and then following that, a separate vote on
It'd still be for the election, and
2019-51B.
B would be for the financing of the bond issue.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay.
So, Mayor, now I believe we're moving on to B of the resolution, which is for the bonds, and move that to the ballot.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
I think at this point, I think some of the council members probably still had comments. I know Member Owens did. But.
Fine. I'll let you know.
I'll just say, I'm not in support of everything on here, but I don't want to take the right away from people to vote on this. So, I think it should go to the voters, and if it's approved by the voters, then that's what we'll do.
I had maybe a question on, so for the shelter, for instance, the amount that's listed, some things, like the location is not set in stone, things like that, is that correct? That can still be determined
That's
after
correct.
the fact?
That'll be part of, if we get the funding for it, we'll go through and do a deeper dive about the pros and cons and come back to you and get that decision.
Okay.
One other question. So with this going on to the ballot, besides the amount of money per each bond item, is there somewhere that will say what the tax rate increase will be if these are approved?
Not in the question, because that's not driven by the amount. It depends. These are just estimates, and been conservative in those. If the taxable value goes up more or less, that'll drive that. So there's no way to predict, there's no way to guarantee what that amount is.
Sure. Sure. Any other comments from council at this point?
Yes, Mayor. So just to focus on the animal shelter a little bit, because we have a lot of people that came out, and I know this is kind of confusing what's happening. Where we are right now, we're just agreeing to put it on a ballot, and the value on there is the maximum value that would be under the bond election. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to cost that much. It's just what the estimate is right now. As Member Owens said, all we can do at this point is put it on the ballot for the voters to determine what we're going to do, along with all of the other propositions that will be on there. If this is important to you, either way, whether you're for or against it, it's important that if it does go on the ballot, if we agree to that, that y'all vote and y'all go out and get your neighbors to vote. again, however you feel vote in the way that you feel for each individual proposition. Right now, we're not making any decisions other than to put it to y'all to let us know whether or not this project is a priority. Once it comes back to us, there's still a lot of work to do to finish the design, enter the construction contract, and get it built. So this is not the finality of it. This is just the first significant hurdle. So I know it's kind of confusing. It may be kind of confusing to some of y'all what we're doing up here, but that's where we are right now. In general, I mean, we've been talking about this bond for a couple of years. I think we've negotiated back and forth amongst ourselves and with staff. I'm happy with where we are right now. I think staff's put a lot of effort to put projects in here that are priorities. So I think we should support it.
I think what you're trying to say is we're going to gain in population. We know that, and we know we're unsure about the financial situation of our nation and the area. So but we'll have that figured out by the time it's on the ballot for now.
Mayor, just briefly, I can appreciate folks coming in to speak on an issue that they actually care about. And I'm going to take a page out of the Honorable Keith Ordino's book and say, now we're asking for voters to vote on spending more money. And I'm not saying that we don't need to revise or do something with our current animal shelter, but that's a lot of money to spend when I think back on the fact that for the past so many years, even before I got on council, we've been taking money from streets and sidewalks. I mean, we're going to get twice as many people come in and tell us that their sidewalks are messed up. There's things that we have to prioritize as council members, and things that we have to ask the public to think about when they're voting. On these types of things. I think $13 million is a high number for an animal shelter. I'm sorry, and I've said that even before today. When we first decided what this bond election was going to look like. I think we do need to do some things to it, and we do need to revise it, and it needs to be a new shelter or something done to the current one. But, there's other things that we definitely need in this city that we keep setting aside, or we've kept setting aside, and you all may not know about those things. And I think you would agree that those things are important in order for us to sustain a viable city and for us to continue to have people wanting to move into Pearland, but not just wanting to move into Pearland, but wanting to actually stay here. Some folks have been here for years, grew up here, and they want to continue that, but you don't want a city that is decrepit and run down, but we have a great animal shelter. Like I said, I definitely, like Councilmember Morris stated, I don't want to stop the voters from voting. But when taxes come around and we get a lot of people in here telling us, our taxes are too high, and Councilmember Carbone is gone, and we're looking at each other, kind of side eye. I mean, those are the things that we're going to have to really seriously think about. And so, I just want to say that I wanted it separate because of that. If anybody wanted to vote against it, but I just want to make sure that was known. So,
I'd just like to add, to echo to what Councilman Reed said. Staff can't tell us what impact it will have on our taxes, but we can tell you it will have an impact on our taxes. It will increase the taxes. And while I'll support putting it on the bond so the citizens can vote on it, I still struggle with over $600 a square foot for an animal shelter when you can build a hospital for quite a bit less than that. Just keep that in mind.
Well, that one of the things I'd like to mention on here, that each one of these items is going to be broken down to vote on. And I'll tell you right now that any of these items that's not passed, there's no money for it. I mean, there's no backup funds that we have on there. So that's why I was telling you a while ago that if you're in support of this on the animal shelter, you need to get out and work with it, because if it crashes and burns, there is not a pot of money to do that. And that's the same way with the other items that are on there. That's why they're going out on a bond issue. And that's why we're having the general public to come in and vote on each one of these areas. So if they're important to you, I say get out, work on it, get people of like mind to come in and go to the voting on these things. We actually went over today to Friendswood to look at theirs. which is quite a bit smaller than what we're looking at, but, we're quite a bit larger than what Friendswood is. They have a nice facility, but it is an older facility, and the one that we have, it's scheduled in here with a number, I think it's 86 animals that we'll be able to house in there, plus a veterinarian to be able to work on these facilities. So it's a great facility, and like, Councilmember Reed said, it's expensive, but everything's expensive this day. Everything we do. So you got the 5 items, I guess, or number of items that are on there. So each one of them is going to be voted on independently. But if it crashes and burns and it's not there, there's not a pot of money within the city to come in and take care of these things. So just make that important, when you go out to vote.
Mayor, before we get off this item, not particularly the issue of the bond, I just wanted to say that we had a lot of people mention Ms. Coleman and said specifically what an impact she had on them and what an impact she's made on the community. And I think since we're talking animal shelter, it's a good time to acknowledge that she's a fantastic employee. She does a lot for the community, and I hope that your name being mentioned a lot is as impactful to you as it is to me. And thank you for all you do.
And some good ideas have been floating. But we really must remember that we're going to be a big city. We're the 3rd largest city in the Gulf Coast area right now, behind Houston and Pasadena. And we're going to increase our population. And as we do, it's going to be our responsibility to provide, and we recognize the reason why we're 3rd largest is because of the quality of life in Pearland. The things we do here are very, not only smart, but the right thing to do, and you're building a city. And we're going to, as we grow, our responsibility is to anticipate what the growth is going to be, and I know it's going to be bigger. And it's our responsibility to go in and look at what needs to be upgraded. We've got probably a lot more than what Wallace has at this point, but we're going to conclude as mature cities grow, and we'll run to those. We're going to do the things that need to be done to keep quality of life and represent the needs of the people that are coming in. They used to have nice things. We'll make sure that we keep doing that because that's what they're paying for. So thank all of you for being here, and thanks for the comments from council. I think we've got...
I have one more comment. I just,
okay.
Final point of clarification, this is the amount set is the max that we're going for. Council still has the ability to give direction on design and location, everything, so we could theoretically come in way under this number.
Yes.
Okay.
Theoretically.
Okay.
So the remaining that is left over from it we'll put to the road and street fund.
We have a new business item number 2. Y'all ready to go to work?
I know that was in jest, but just to be clear, we can't do that. The money's allocated for...
It goes just for that item. Mayor, we do have the second half of item 1 that we still need to vote upon. So on the amended motion, we split into 2.
We've got the amended motion in there.
For 51B, we're ready?
Yeah, so the vote will now be for 2019-51B, which is for the special election for the bond.
That's right.
Yeah, special election for the bonds.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes, that it should go to the voters. And I know you're going to say, why did I take you through all that? Yes, that it should go to the voters.
Councilmember Perez?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? Aye. Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Well, that resolved. Let's move to new business item number 2. And that happens to be Councilmember Perez. You have some talking left?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action, first reading ordinance number 2000M-180. So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is actually a pretty straightforward amendment to a plan development. This is the first reading. The developers, as they continue to do their diligence and site planning and work, they do need to make some modifications for the lot sizes, and so as PD requires amendment to the PD ordinance itself. So that's what's before you tonight. relatively minor. Staff recommends approval.
Council have any questions or comments regarding this item? I believe we have a motion second on the floor, Mr. Secretary.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little? He's absent from the chambers. Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0 with Councilmember Little absent from the chambers.
Moving to new business item number 3, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action for Resolution R 2019-28. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I didn't hear the second. We did have a second, okay. We have a motion second on the floor. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is actually something I'm very pleased to be recommending to you tonight. We've struggled for a long time with how we can provide to our public safety services a mobile command vehicle, something that can be fairly easy to move into a situation and provide tactical commanders the situation where they can all meet together in a weather-controlled sort of environment and direct an operation of any kind. And cities of our size, have such a vehicle. Up till this point, our police department had a old school bus, which was worse than decrepit. That was their mobile command vehicle. We've actually had to put that out and put a bullet in it. So we don't have anything right now. But this, as you've seen in the material, we've talked about several times, it's a very specialized vehicle. It's an RV platform. But within that, there's space for meetings and communications, mapping, and so that we can have that kind of near incident facility to direct special events, which will, by and large, will be the majority use of it, but also, God forbid, any kind of a worse situation where we need to put, there's an ongoing kind of bad situation, and we can have people in command from police and fire, public works working together, meeting, and making decisions on how best to respond to an event. So we've cobbled together, as you can see, the monies that are necessary for this from several different sources. So the actual impact to the city's general fund is minimal. A piece of this is from our police alumni association, and want to give them a lot of credit and thanks for their very generous contribution towards this. Other funds are coming from seizure funds, which are not general fund. That's where the majority of it comes from, federal and state seizure funds. And then also the technology pieces of it, we're allowed to and can contribute some money from the cable PEG funds. So, the general fund piece of it's a small last remainder to get us across the finish line. The resolution technically allows us to go to a buy board and procure this, and you've seen the specs where we've, staff has spent a lot of time reviewing that and outfitting that. So ask for your favorable consideration so we can get this in process. The build time is long, and get this into our emergency services fleet.
I think it's a wise move on your part to do that. Council, have any question or comment at this point?
Yes, Mayor. So will the one that we're trying to go out and get look exactly like this, or is this just like a example of what it?
The schematic one at the inside, and Captain Nichols has been working on this. I don't know if you want to explain what we're actually going to go out and buy, but I believe this is the schematic inside shows what you want to put in there, right?
Yes, sir. The schematic shows is what we were quoted. The pictures are pictures of the Williamson County Emergency Management Vehicle that we toured right before Thanksgiving. It's going to be a similar make and manufacturer, similar size, and similar setup on the inside.
Thank you.
Councilor,
I'll just make a comment. I appreciate staff and our police officer alumni association for finding a way to creative ways to fund this.
I think it's smart to be able to utilize several sources and sort of a financial partnership arrangement. So, Council, any further questions or comments?
The amount currently coming from general is what, 20,000, is that correct?
Right, that's the last increment. I mean, we'll work through the other funds and best estimates we have, this would be what we would need to get us to full funding for it.
Okay. Council, any further questions? Mr. Secretary, I believe we have a motion second on the floor.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Little.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Owens.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbone.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed is absent from the chambers. Councilmember Perez.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0 with Councilmember Reed absent from the chambers.
Moving in our agenda to item number 8, Mayor Council issues for council consideration and discussion. There were none. Other business that we have on the agenda? No. Executive session under Texas Government Code. We'll move from here into the executive session. And obviously, in executive session, we cannot make a decision on any of the items that will be considered for discussion and for voting. But we can discuss these with the individuals, but we can't make a decision. But we can when we come back into open session, these items three of them will be on the agenda for council open discussion. So at this time, we will recess into executive session at 7:59. Yeah, it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Council returned from executive session at 9:58. Moving to our decision-making on, I'll ask our city attorney to present our, for us.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd recommend a motion authorizing the staff to proceed with an amended tax abatement agreement with prospect number 1405, that's PEDC prospect 1405, as discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second?
Second.
Secretary, I believe we got a motion.
Councilmember Carbone?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed? Aye. Councilmember Perez?
Stepped out.
Absent from the chambers.
There he is. Ask him again.
Councilmember Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Little?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Councilmember Owens?
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
There being no further business for this council and our result from our executive session, we are adjourned at 10 o'clock.